I know who's in and who's not. I go to Africa. I mean, you travel around the world, you know just as well as I do. You go to a conference, you look outside, and there's Benny Hinn book. You know, you just see it. You see the TD Jakes, you see the Joel Osteens. I would say that they fall out of the realm of orthodoxy, but yet so many Christians that I know, well, I know how you feel, but they tell it like it is. You know, you hear that all the time. How do we respond in a loving way when even the media outlets that we go to favor these individuals and present them in front of our people day in and day out that they think they're okay?
Yeah. So I think we got to be really careful in when we talk about what constitutes heresy and orthodoxy. It's possible to be just to be really off theologically and yet not actually fall under the particular definition of heresy. So for example, the oneness Pentecostal understanding that is basically modalism is a heresy. Completely is heretical. The question of whether TD Jakes affirms that or not is one that has been disputed and debated. And I haven't really studied this, but from what I've
on the spot.
Yeah, well, from what I've seen in this past, I think Jakes has come around to some kind of to a Trinitarian affirmation at some level. And I hope he has, because obviously I'd rather him be teaching the truth rather than falsehood there. But the question, like when you go to Africa, you go to different places and you see people whose teaching is false in this way or that, or is if not heretical, borderline. I think it takes a certain level of discipleship over time to be able to disciple people to a fuller understanding of Christianity so that they see through some of that. I think there's a lot of American Christians that could read and I'm not saying Joel Osteen is a heretic because I don't know that he's ever denied fundamental aspects of the faith, but you read like a Joel Osteen next to a John Piper, and like there are a lot of people that read both and I don't really recognize the vast difference. Like, I mean, like seriously, like you walk into some people's homes and you'll see both of them on the coffee table or something. And it's like
oil and water.
I mean, but I think we're assuming a certain level of understanding theologically that in a lot of places isn't there. So what do we do in that circumstance? Well, a couple of things. The good news is you're saved by the God of Orthodox doctrine, not by your understanding of Orthodox doctrine. You're saved by the God that Orthodox doctrine points to, not by your ability to articulate it perfectly. So again, now this is I'm talking about ordinary Christians here. I'm not talking about teachers of whom there is a higher standard who are teaching certain things. I'm talking about, the person who you see, you see the book on the coffee table and you kind of wonder what's going on.
You have a Trevin Wax book?
That's right. Yeah. They need my book on their coffee table. That's the whole point of the podcast. That's the whole point. No, so I think we have to be careful there because it is possible to be in error. And I mean, this is one of the things that, that the reformers taught as well. They Richard Hooker, for example, the great Anglican theologian, made it very clear, as did Luther and Calvin and others, that a Christian can be wrong on their understanding of justification by faith alone, or on how they articulate the doctrine of justification by faith, and still be justified by faith in Christ. And the same is true. The same is true. Like I mentioned this in the book. Like I didn't realize that I had adopted the Apollinarian heresy in my understanding.
I read that.
Yeah, I had thought that Christ was a divine soul in a human body. It just makes sense to me. And then I come across it in a class where I realized that's one of the heresies. I thought, So, but I mean, but I was already saved before that. Like, again, I am saved by Jesus Christ, fully God and fully man, not because I am able to pass a test articulating exactly how he is fully God and fully man. That doesn't mean that heresy is unimportant. That doesn't mean we shouldn't seek to root it out, that we shouldn't teach against it, or that we shouldn't correct it when we find it. But I think we've got to recognize it's like there's a lot of what passes for Christian teaching in our day is just unhealthy junk food. And I think we got to help people to a better diet. And I think we do have to warn people when there's poison in the cabinet that'll kill them. So when you got someone that's actually walking down a path where they're beginning to read and or to listen to or to people that are actually dispensing poison because it's heretical teaching, I think that's when you have to do the warning. Some of the food that's out there is really bad for you. It's not poisonous, but it's going to be detrimental to your spiritual life. I think some of the prosperity gospel teachings and things like that are some of them are heretical, like Kenneth Copeland and others, like were there, but some are not necessarily heresy, and yet it's extraordinarily unsound, unhealthy teaching that is going to lead to unhealthy spirituality. So I think there's a place to warn against that as well, and to be able to say, look, this diet is going to leave you malnourished when you need sustenance, when suffering comes, or when this happens, or it's going to deform your view of God, things like that. So I think again, trying to keep things in proper categories. We want to keep people away from poison. We want to discourage people away from unhealthy foods, and we want to serve up the kind of feast and to make it tasty enough to where people recognize and they start to lose the appetite for the stuff that they've been the junk food they've been raiding from the pantry.